I think I'd probably like to have dinner with Meryl Streep. I saw her speak at something, and she was so relaxed in front of a huge crowd of people, and she was just so funny, and I think she'd probably be quite a lovely person to sit and have dinner with, as long as she's not playing the character from August Osage County. Probably not so much fun. Probably breaking into film. That wasn't really part of my plan. I didn't really have a plan. I was just a jobbing actor in theatre and enjoying theatre. And then I did a play at the Donmar Warehouse, which then sort of brought me to the attention of lots of film people who didn't really know who I was until that point. So I guess and it was very hard. It was very hard for me to even get a TV audition at the time. So to break into film was an enormous moment in my career, and to now still be here 6 years later and done like 20 movies is I still can't quite believe it. So that's probably it. Well, I'm busy doing this promotion for The Hobbit at the minute. I'm training for another project. We'll be starting The Crow at some point this year. I'm in talks about 3 or 4 other projects this year, which will go before I start my press for the Dracula, which comes out in October. So there's a lot going on, and I'm focusing on smaller films this year, smaller independent movies, which I've been passionate about, and I'm helping get together so that we can get them all up and running. So so there's quite a few different things. I've got my finger in lots of pies, and there's a potential television project as well, which I'm talking to people about. So yeah, loads of things. So by the end of this year, we'll be consumed with taking the Dracula on tour and opening that, and then the final Hobbit, which will be all-consuming. Well, the title sort of helps you a little bit. It's Dracula Untold, so it's the untold story of the origins of Dracula. And if you know the story of the Dracula most people know of, that you'll know that the historical character Vlad the Impaler is the real person behind the fictional character of Dracula, and so that's where we start this story. So immediately we're starting telling a story that hasn't been told before. So that immediately distinguishes it from the other Dracula films that we all know and love. We're back in the 1400s, so this is a man who was a king, who was a leader of a country, who was threatened by the invasion of the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and we see this man, and through his eyes we see his sacrifice and his turmoil and his heartbreak, and we see him make decisions in his life that change not only the course of his life, but the course of his family's life, his people's life, and his country's life. So yeah, it's a story that you won't necessarily have known about. Mainstream, yeah, it's mainstream. It's incredibly relatable. We're dealing with the human as much as we're dealing with the vampire. And what we see in this film is a human transforming into a vampire. We see the whole journey, and it's dark. It is very dark, and there is blood. I don't think you can shoot a movie about Dracula without there being blood. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it's huge. And Vlad was a warrior. He was a fighter. So there's a huge amount of battles as well as special effects and stunts. I mean, it was probably the hardest I worked post The Hobbit. So yeah, we're in for a very interesting ride, an unusual ride, and a story that you wouldn't know of. I guess making him relatable. I mean, a lot of people, when you mention the word Vlad, people think of this man who impaled people in forests and the very gory nature of his legacy. But Vlad Tepes was also, he reigned over a peaceful kingdom for a long time in a very turbulent Europe, which was constantly small countries were being invaded and all that. So I wanted to make sure that we were telling the full story of a man, not only was a ruthless warrior and did some very dark, ruthless things, but he also had a family and was loved and revered by his people and also by his enemies. Even on his tombstone in Hungary, I think it is, you know, it says that he was revered, loved by his people and revered by his enemies. They respected him as a lawgiver and a sort of a warrior and a leader. So I guess that was the challenge, was to not just allow people to think of him as this, you know, crazy killer and impaler, but also a man that led his people through and successfully stopped the Ottoman invasion through his country. So there's a lot to him, actually. It's a difficult question, that, because you sort of, there's a lot of fun to be had in on both sides of the track. I've played a baddie and thoroughly enjoyed playing Owen Shaw in Fast and the Furious 6. You know, people really liked the character and I liked playing him, and he was really fun and very enjoyable to play. But then, you know, equally it must be fun to be loved and liked by the audience members instead of being hated by them. But, you know, emotions are great, and as long as you trigger an emotion somewhere along the line, I think the role is done its job. That's right. Thanks, Troy. Yeah, no, come on. I mean, it's a fantastic role, and a very coveted role for anybody, any actor of my generation. It's great. So yes, of course, I think it'd be a wonderful project to play, characters to play. I think I'm doing one that I've probably always been fascinated with and have loved, Dracula. I mean, Dracula's a fantastic character. It's been around in the Universal archives since 1932. It's been played by some of the best actors throughout those decades, and so to bring him to life and bring him to life in a different way, in a fresh story, is well, it's a responsibility, but it's also a real gift. So I'm very excited about that.
We had James McAvoy in a couple of months ago.
Right, yeah.
He went off on a tangent about Thundercats.
Oh.
Like a Thundercats movie.
I'm with James there. That is a great idea. Thundercats would be fantastic. Who did he want to play? Lino?
Yeah, I think so.
Did he? Yeah. I'd like to play Panthera.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. As long as they kept the theme tune.
Yeah.
Because the theme tune was awesome. Oh, thanks very much, Hobbit_freak. It is something I always will do. Singing it's the deepest thing inside me and has always been there. And yeah, I would love to go back and sing. It's difficult because you have to commit to a musical for a good 6 months, I think. You know, you can't do anything else. At the minute, I don't have a window of 6 months to do that. But I think if the right thing would come along, I'd move things to do it. The right role, the right project, the right music, the right musical, the right story, and the right character, and the right director. There's a lot of things that have to be right. But it definitely is something I'd go back to, yeah. And maybe it will happen soon, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and do a play. Something will happen, I think. I am missing the theatre quite a bit. I've been back in London for a while now, and I've been to see a lot of theatre. I always do when I'm in London, see as much theatre as I can, and I've been getting itchy feet recently. I've seen quite a few great things, musical and straight plays, and it's very inspiring, and you realise how wonderful it is to be in theatre, to be on stage in front of a live audience and tell the whole story, the whole arc of a journey every night. It's a very special experience. I think I was just butterflies, I think, inside, feeling disbelief, and my fingers couldn't dial my mum's number fast enough to tell them. Weirdly, they didn't know who Bard the Bowman was, obviously, and they never read The Hobbit, and I had to explain everything, which sort of dissipated the enthusiasm I had when I first picked up the phone to them. But after that, you know, yeah, it's probably that moment of just disbelief, and it took a while before it sort of sunk in, that whole you know. And again, until the film came out, again, it was that moment of it all sinking and going, just there he is, Bard's alive, Bard's on the screen, and he's part of this story and part of this legacy now. And so it's very exciting. It was very exciting. Still is very exciting. Probably would like to have a go at Thorin. I think he's a very interesting character, and his personality throughout the 3 films changes dramatically, and you see lots of light and shade in Thorin's character. It changes a lot. So I think he'd be quite an interesting character to play, you see. And he gets loads of screen time, which obviously is always a bonus. Well, there's lots to expect. For the people that haven't read the book, I don't want to spoil it for them. They should read the book because it's a wonderful story and it's easy to read and hard to put down. But you know, we've ended the second film on a huge cliffhanger, probably one of the biggest cliffhangers of 2013. This dragon it leaves the mountain for the first time, and we see exactly where it's going. My character is in a prison. He's been locked up, and his family are, you know, threatened, along with Lake Town and Middle Earth. Basically, this dragon could annihilate an awful lot of people. So there's a lot that is weighing in the balance. And if you thought the pace of the second film was heady, then the third film will be trippy because we don't stop. There is a lot going on. There's a huge threat, and you know, that's all I can say. I can't say anything else. Read the book. That'll help.